Hearing none, tonight's a speaker meeting, and we got one of my favorite speakers. This dude, I almost like hearing him speak as much as I like drinking. Man, I could tell his story, man, and he's funny and all, don't get me wrong, but he also works this program, and he's dead serious about this thing because it almost took him out of here, and he's going to tell you about it. He can rattle off this literature like Glenn over here, and every time I see him, he's hugging somebody, making somebody laugh, and he just works an excellent program. Y'all help me welcome my friend Michael.
All right.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Michael McCollum, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm just welled up, man. I'm just welled up with gratitude. I mean, what a night, man. There's no place I'd rather be than right here with all of you, man. Just came from Richie 2 years. It's awesome, man. I've never stopped looking up to you. Richie was here the day I walked in. Used to go to a meeting that he ran on Friday nights, and I've never stopped looking up to you, man. I love you so much, and I love that you're in Reedsville and what you do for this community. And it's to see all these people here that love you and care so much about you. And I got welled up just driving over here. How wonderful my life, and to be a part of this, to be a part of so many people, and to experience that love and support, and all these people that want me to stay sober, want each and every one of us to stay sober. What a blessing! What a miracle! What got me coming here? I was like, how much did drugs and alcohol steal from me? How much did I miss? I was just letting life pass me by. My day couldn't have got much better. I woke up early in the big bed, like they say when you're married, not on the couch. I had clean clothes in the hamper. Plenty of deodorant, toothpaste, all the pleasantries were there. No trouble. Got on a meeting with 100 folks from all over the country. Worked honest days, put honest days work in, handled some responsibility. Got to come over early, spend some time with my parents. Got to go have some dinner with some people that I love and cherish. And then come here and be with you people who saved my life. Saved my life when I was ready to throw it away. But my life didn't mean anything to me. My life had no meaning, no purpose, no direction. I didn't care if I lived or died. And you picked me up and you showed me the way, because I'd fallen off the path. And you were always here to make sure these doors were open, so these rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous remain open forever, to save people like me who'd fallen off the path of life, and you were there to pick me up and show me the way again when I thought nobody cared. And you loved me when I couldn't love myself. Y'all offered me all this help when I felt like I didn't deserve it. Because I felt like the things I had done, I didn't deserve any of the things, and you gave to me so freely and so generously. And I can never do enough to repay you for this wonderful gift you've given me, this life that I have, and I cherish, and I love you guys so much. I just love you all so much, and thank you for my life. I think I said I'm Michael, and I'm an alcoholic, and I'll say it again. And I'm from Reedsville, so I'm a little slow. Don't worry. I grew up going to church here. I can pick on us because I'm one of us. So watch out. And somebody else says something, you don't talk about us like that. It's like somebody picks on your brother or sister, But anyway, I grew up going to this church, so all I really learned was how to tie a necktie before I turned 10. That's about all I got out of coming to church here. But anyway, I knew this was the AA room, and they used to take up the offering, and I'd have to come down because the offices are back here, and sometimes I'd have to go back and get something. I'd get through. I was like, man, I knew what this place was. I was like, they ain't going to catch me in here. So I'd shuffle through real quick, I wanted to do no loitering. I was going to get out of here quick. I said, they're not going to get me. But anyway, nothing to say about my childhood, and I'd love to talk about my parents briefly. Wonderful, wonderful, salt-of-the-earth type people, hard-working. And the only thing I can tell you about my parents is they never did the first thing to deserve the things that I put them through. And I put them through a lot. And they were wonderful people. And they broke their backs to give my sister and myself everything they never had growing up. And never heard my father raise his voice to my mother. My dad was a Sunday school teacher here. These wonderful people. And nothing ever came much out of them. There was no physical, verbal abuse, anything to speak of. Going to school, everything on the outside looked great. I was what you call popular. I could get along with anybody. as long as there wasn't too many people around, because I would mirror whatever you did. If you were a country guy, that country, or city guy, which it's hard to distinguish in Reidsville, I found out. Because I lived inside the city limits my whole life, and as soon as I leave town, they're telling me I'm like a redneck in the hill. I was like, excuse me, I have lived inside the city limits my entire life. Talking about, I do not have a pickup truck, a shotgun, fishing pole, none of that. I drove an Oldsmobile. I was like, not by choice. It's not what I wanted, but I'd like to say I was grateful to have it, but I wasn't. As a teenager, I wanted more. It was never enough. And so I was a chameleon, and I would do these things. I would show off. I was class clown. I was smart, and I would try to be all these different things to fit in because I desperately needed that peer approval. And I don't know where it came from, but you know what I've found here in these rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous since I've been here? I've found that perfect love and perfect acceptance I've looked for my entire life for being the most honest, truest version of myself. The more open and honest I am, the more you embrace me. The more I share my insecurities and my fears and my doubts, the more you embrace me and say, thank you, brother, you're just like me. And then I've never seen it. I've never experienced anything like I've seen in AA anywhere in the world. We accept everyone. We'll take you in. I was a late bloomer as far as drinking goes on. You hear some people be like, well, I was drinking, in my baby bottle. And I was, my uncle made moonshine up in the hills. So when I was 3, I knew where to stash. Well, that's not my story. That's great if it's yours. It's fine. But I was 16. It was June 6th, 1991. I had my first drink. I got to go to the beach when my neighbor across the street had graduated from Appalachian. So somebody thought it was a good idea to send this 16-year-old high school kid down to the beach with these college graduate guys. And so they looked like they were having a good time. They were talking to girls in bikinis and smoking cigarettes and drinking drinks. And I was like, well, let's give this a shot. And so I cracked me a Natural Light, and I took a big swig of it. And I thought it was going to come out my eyes, my ears, my nose. And I said, oh, man, that stuff, that's no good. But unfortunately, they had a bottle of Stoli's vodka and some Sundrops. So I got me an iced tea glass, and I made me about 3 vodka Sundrops, drank about 3/4 of that fifth. They were like, hold up, we only got 1 bottle of that. You got to save some for the girls. So I know now they was just trying to have a little fun with the chubby kids. And one of them went to the store and come back with a bottle of Cisco. And I don't know if they make it anymore. They used to call it liquid crack. And it's kind of like MD 2020. And I remember starting to drinking it, but I don't remember finishing it. And I'm blacked out, but I was down there at the beach hanging out with these older guys. I was living, Livin. I was like, if only the little people of Reidsville could see me now. Down here, hanging out with these older guys, girls in bikinis, riding around on golf carts, drinking and smoked a cigarette. I was like, smoked the whole thing all by myself. I was tough, I tell you. I was 6'4", blonde. I had muscles on top of muscles. I mean, I could be all things to all people when I was drinking. Later it was pointed out to me I was really just loud and obnoxious, and I didn't care if I was offensive or hurt your feelings. But in my mind, it was excellent. Everything I did was cute and funny. And if you got mad, you just have to get over it and whatever. I knew how that worked. But school was easy for me. I was a straight A student. I was a captain on the football team, and that afforded me the luxury. I was invited to walk on the football team at North Carolina State University. So I went down there in August of 1993, and 3 days later, I took the opportunity to walk off because them guys were big and they took themselves a little too serious. They had this agenda. They was like 5:45 a.m. to 9:15, and they had the whole day. Wake up, run. That was it. Wake up, run was the first thing. I said, what? There wasn't any PlayStation on there. There wasn't any. Well, I guess back then it was Nintendo 64 or Sega or whatever. The PlayStation was out. And I was like, that's a little too harsh. So I'll just be a student. So here I am down in Raleigh. There's 15,000 people in Reidsville. There's 30,000 undergraduates at NC State when I was a freshman. So there's plenty of people. So I found you could drink with different people each night of the week. So if you drank as much as I did with the same people every night, they might think you had a problem. So I'd go out and I'd get 3 or 4 nights a week. I'm getting blacked out drunk. I'm losing large periods of time. And y'all ever go out and you get the report the following day? Somebody tell you what a good time you did or didn't have, who you need to apologize to, who you upset, and they're like, you need to apologize to Kristen. I said, I didn't see Kristen. I'd see Kristen. Oh, I had seen her, and I had not been a gentleman. I'd found out I'd be walking across campus and be like, Mike, and I'm like, who the heck is this guy? I never laid eyes on him before. I'd go up and he'd tell me my whole life story. I was like, I spent a couple hours talking to this person. They knew everything about me. I got no clue who they are. And then so I probably did the worst thing I could have done is I joined a fraternity and just wild party, hard partying, hard drinking fraternity. And, luckily I came along for everybody had cell phones in their pocket. I'd have been a YouTube sensation. I was captain of Starship Stupid. If you had a bad idea, you just give it to me and give me a few minutes. I'll make that idea worse and or better or badder, depending on your point of view. Like if you want to throw a toilet off the roof or hook a couch up to the back of a Jeep and slide it around in the quad or whatever, or ride a couch down the steps, or I'd go steal pool balls and shoot them across the quad with a 3-man slingshot, or break into the other houses and steal. I'd go steal food, and then I'd be having a cookout. Like I'd steal food from the house right next door, and I'd be out on our deck grilling up burgers next night. Man, like somebody broke in. That's terrible. Golly, the door's busted up. Want a burger? Come on, I've got plenty. That's what I care. I was like, they were free to me. And now when I was drinking, I'd have a good time. It'd be fun. Everybody would be laughing, everybody had a good time. But it's inevitably, at some point in the night, I would cross that imaginary invisible line to me, but it was very visible to everyone else. And I'd get violently antisocial. And I'd pick fights to amuse for entertainment or to impress people. I don't know what I was doing. I was overcompensating for other areas of my life where I was underqualified. If I wasn't getting attention from a young lady, I'd beat somebody up. And I wasn't going to fair fight, I'd fight, I was 6'1", like 250 pounds, and I'd pick a fight with like a 160-pound person, or two of them, to make it more fairish. And I got extremely violent on several occasions, and I'm not proud of, putting people in the hospital, breaking ribs, jaws, and it scared me. One episode in particular, I got really violent, and it hurt these guys really bad, and I was terrified of myself because I could not believe I was capable of such physical violence, and I had no control over myself. It was like I couldn't stop. It's just like I blanked, and luckily one of my friends, pulled me off of them, and so I'm a junior in college by this point, and I'd had a couple run-ins. I was already on double secret probation, so I was trying to fly under the radar, and I went out and did something you couldn't really apologize for. My last day, I took my last exam, my junior year, and the seniors wanted to go out and do the Hillsborough Hike, which is about 25 bars. So the gist is you go to each bar and get a drink. So if you're bad at math, that's 25 drinks. So I was like, well, that might not be enough, so let me have a couple bong hits and a six-pack before we start, because they're gonna want you to pay for all them drinks at the other bar. So after about 20 bars or so, I kind of don't remember what happened. That's this next part of the story. I don't remember any of it. I'm in complete blackout. Parts of it have been repeated to me, and some of it is documented. So I tried to steal a Jeep. I didn't go too well. I must have been fleet of foot because my buddy got caught and I exited swiftly. And they had these public safety things where you could push and call for help. And I was pushing. I wasn't calling for help though. I was just telling public safety what I thought of them. I was using 4-letter words, and letting them know what I thought. And my thoughts weren't real long. And so those cops were eyeing me as I was walking back to the frat court, and I guess I disappeared into this frat house, and I might have started a fire, because I can't say if I did or didn't do it, And but somebody went in there and set a couch on fire and set some tables on. It was like some folding tables with tablecloths on them, set on fire, and there were 6. It was after 1 o'clock in the morning, and there were 6 people in there asleep. So somebody could have got hurt. Luckily, when I left, the lawnmower said something to offend me, and I threw it off the deck. And the guy upstairs heard it and stuck his head out the window, and I told him to come on down, we'd fight about it. And of course he knew who I was, because I was always drunk running around shooting off the mouth, so people knew who I was. And so I come to in the back of a squad car, and I got on different clothes, and I'd remembered having on the night before, and I was liking to think, And like I said, I was in a complete blackout, and they're asking me these questions, like, I see you trying to figure your way out of this, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And to this day, I can't say whether I did or didn't do it. But the police had this thing called evidence. And the evidence did not look too good for me. They had a little too much of it, and I didn't have no story because I couldn't tell them nothing. So it wasn't going to be that big of a deal because nobody got hurt. They put the fire out. But the very next weekend, Mother's Day weekend of 1996, there was a fire at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and a fraternity burned down, and 6 young people lost their life. And then it became a serious matter. That next Monday morning, I got a phone call from the Wake County Sheriff's Department saying a warrant had been issued for my arrest, and I was charged with first-degree arson and attempted murder. And it got real serious then. My father had to drive me back down to Raleigh so I could be arrested. What do you do? You call an attorney. I had to go get an alcohol assessment, and I passed that. They sent me a little piece of paper in the mail, said I was an alcoholic. And and I lied. You can't tell those people how much you really drink. They're like, if you drink more than 6 drinks a week, you got a problem. I was like, yeah, you got a problem. You ain't got enough to drink. six drinks a week. I was like, you can't even hardly get drunk. This is what I drink before I go out. 6 drinks. I see your problem right here. I was like, who filled this chart out? They don't know nothing. It's like the body mass index chart. That's an idiot. Idiot designed that. They don't know what they're talking about. And so I'm standing in the kitchen, and the letter comes, and my dad reads it, from the alcohol counselor, and so he reads his letter, and so he's just read, it says I'm an alcoholic and experimented with drugs and stuff on there, and so he hands it to me, and I'm reading. I'm like, oh my God! I was like, what's he gonna do? What's he gonna say? And he just took the letter from me and balled it up and threw it away. He's like, they don't know what they're talking about. He's like, he said, we're just going to get another assessment. I was like, that's right. That's right. They don't know what they're talking about. 21-year-old Michael's like, I thought it was a choice that I could make, that I had some sort of control over whether I'd be alcoholic or not. I was like, I'm not going to allow that to happen to me. I'm not going to allow myself to become an alcoholic. And that's what I honestly thought that day, standing in my parents' kitchen. But I knew as I stand before you today, I have no more control over me being alcoholic than I do if the sun is going to come up today, tomorrow, the next day. I just simply am alcoholic. My body processes alcohol alcoholically, which is not that rare. Roughly 10% of the world's population has alcoholism, and they process alcohol alcoholically, which if you do the math is over 700 million people. So it's just like they say, well, Michael, you're allergic to peanuts. You eat peanuts, you're going to break out in the rash. He's like, you drink alcohol, you're going to break out in stupid real bad. And it's proven time and time again, 100% effective, 100%. When I drink alcohol, I get stupid quick. And but thanks to you people, and this program of Alcoholics Anonymous, these 12 steps in a relationship with a higher power I choose to call God, I'm just as alcoholic as the day I walked in here. I'll be just as alcoholic the day I die. But I no longer suffer from the disease of alcoholism. And before I met you people, I suffered greatly. And the ones who suffered the most were the ones who loved me and what I put them through. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts that this program has afforded me, is I don't have to hurt the ones I love on a daily basis like I did when I was drinking. And what a blessing, what a miracle. So I came back home. I was going to community college, took some classes, got my real estate license. I was back involved at the church. And I was an usher. I used to know the combination to the safe upstairs. I don't remember it now. If any of y'all was thinking, I know some of y'all. You can beat me up in the parking lot. I don't know. It's been a long time. A lot of brain cells gone since then. But things started going good. I started. Went to work with my mother, selling houses. We had an incident here in town where one of my friends, had a drinking and driving accident, leaving a wedding, and it killed the passenger, and we'd all gone to church together. It divided the church. There's no way around it. And it was just a real mess, and I witnessed it. Or we were right behind it. I didn't actually see. I saw them pull off, and I heard the wreck, and we got around the corner. It was a cloud of dust. And I didn't know how to process stuff like that. I didn't know. And I remember standing in my living room a couple days after that. As when I turned my back on God, I said, this God business just isn't panning out like they said it was. I was like, how does this loving God let these horrible things happen to these good people? And I consciously made a decision to turn my back on God. And my life started getting worse and worse. My life started going downhill. I turned, they had told me, and I got, a couple years later, got my own DUI. Forced, got to go to these alcohol assessment classes. I was a catastrophe drinker. I would tighten up for a while, and then I'd get back to drinking where I was comfortable, thinking I could control it, and another catastrophe. And every time when I was going through my 4-step, I could look, there was something happened where I got my feelings hurt. Right before those catastrophes happened, and I was drinking at the world. Let me show you, I'll hurt me. You hurt me, I'm going to destroy everything that I love. I don't know why I'm like that. And it took, coming in here and getting honest, and you people pointing out these things. I'd have never seen it. I'd have never seen it in a million years on my own. And so I was like, well, they tell me I got a problem with drinking. I was like, well, I got the cure for that. I'm gonna fix that with pills, powders, and plants. And all I need is the exact right combination. And just to save all y'all I've done countless hours of marketing research and designed. If you mix white bars Xanaxes with brown liquor, that equals losing friends. Like, don't nobody like that guy. If you be out of there, they're gonna tell you to leave. Don't come back. That don't work out good for nobody. Nobody likes that guy. This is a bad combination. And then, did any of y'all ever, when you were drinking, did you ever get uninvited to something? Did you ever get uninvited to a birthday party, or your friends are getting married and you look like, oh, we don't get nothing in the mail? Well, my buddy Todd, his parents used to live right next door here. When he was 28, they had a big fancy wedding. He and his wife both went to Duke, and so it was big. We went down Friday night, spent the night in a fancy hotel, rehearsal dinner, then we played golf. And then the wedding was at like 5 o'clock at night. Then they had, a big reception at the hotel. Well, I had been there, for 24 hours at this point. Now they had seen my behavior. And so we came out of the wedding, and we're going into the reception. And they were like, "Oh, Michael, we got a little few too many people." They put me and my date in a banquet room with like 30 tables and like enough tables for like 100 people, with just me and my date. And then the rest of the reception was like, we're in reception, the Carolina reception room, they're in the Duke dress, and we were just me and her. They brought us our dinner. My wife loves that story, but I was a little embarrassed. Anyway, my date's looking at me like, where's everybody else? I'm like, I don't know. Like, what do you say? And then, and I'd gotten a DUI, and I'd go out, and when I'd go to bars, I'd get in trouble, and I'd always, somebody'd want to fight, or there's always trouble. I was like, I'll just stay home. I can't hurt anybody if I just stay home. Well, you can get hurt at home too. About chopped my finger off one night, splitting some wood for the wood stove, and I was like, I pulled the axe out of it. I was like, it's good. Just put a little super glue on it and duct tape. It was fine. And then one night I was in the middle of the night, and I'm at a little house built in the 50s, and it was just a sink. It was a sink, commode, and a cast iron tub, and there wasn't much room in there. And so I'm peeing or whatever, and I fall back in the bathtub, and I come to, I don't know how long I'm knocked out, and I'm folded up in there short ways. I got my knees are in my chest, and so all of this is in the tub the short way. And I open my eyes, and my head is just ringing. I know I'm concussed, and so I'm sitting there, and it takes me a minute or two to figure out like where I am and what has happened. I'm like, the heck is going on? And then I'm like, I fell in the bathtub. I was like, I've broken my neck. I'm laying in the bathtub with a broken neck, and I can't get up. But luckily, I had a plastic and a cloth shower curtain that kind of caught me a little bit. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, Mikey, you going to lay here and die, or are you going to try to get up? I was like, you got it. Because, it's 4 in the morning or something. It's going to be an hour a day for somebody comes to look. So I was like, I got to make an attempt. So I'm all folded up in the bathtub, and I was like, on the count of 3. On the count of 3, we're going to go. So I was like, 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, and I was like, I'm going to make it. And I was get up. And I was like, all right, now how about the neck? How's the neck? And I'm like, oh, yeah, neck's good. And my neck is good. Ain't nothing wrong with this neck. Oh. And I didn't move my neck for a month. It would make crunchy noises. I probably fractured my skull. I broke my neck. I'm driving like this. I'm like, I look over my shoulder. Oh. And then I had this tooth. I actually just got the tooth capped last week. I finally got a permanent cap on it, but it had a big filling in it, and it had fell out 3 or 4 times before I finally got it capped. And I was at my friend's house. It wasn't long after I fell in the bathtub, so it might have knocked that filling loose again. I was over at my friend's house. We're passing around this big old cigar with no tobacco in it, and it comes my turn. So I'm like, I'm just coughing. It's like, and they're like, you all right? I'm like, and I was like, man, my throat hurts so bad. I was like, man, I have tore my windpipe. And I was like, but I'm tough. I got to sit here and act like I'm all right. So I'm sitting there holding my neck, and then it comes back to me, and I'm like, you all right? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm good. I'm good. Everything's fine. It's fine. I was like, you sure? No, like, you sure, man? You all right? I was like, no, man, I'm good. It's all right. There's no problem, man. I'm good. And then so I'm at home at night, and I'm like, Michael, if you lay down, you're going to, like, all your air is leaking out into your body. Like, you're going to blow up like a Macy's Day parade balloon. Like, you're going to wake up, you're going to be like a deer on the side of the road, just all swoked up. And so I've got my shirt off, and I'm looking in the mirror. You know how you look yourself in the mirror, and I'm like, oh man, I'm full of air. But I was just fat. I was just fat. I wasn't filling up with air. And then so like for weeks, like I'm smoking cigarettes and I'm like, oh. And my friends, by this time, they all knew. They're like, man, is your bubble acting up? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, man, it's my bubble. My bubble's acting up. So I'm smoking. And just like 2 months later, I'm sitting at the house, laid back on the couch, and I'm like, whew, and I was like, what the heck was that? It felt like it was a butterfly or a moth or something fluttering around like inside my chest. And so I take another deep breath. I'm like, and it fluttered around again. I was like, what the heck is that? And I did it and I felt it. So I went, and I blink, and I pulled it out. It was my filling. My filling had fallen out of my tooth, and I'd inhaled it into my lung that night, so it had scraped down through my larynx or my windpipe and scratched it. But I was so relieved. I was like, hey, I was like, yeah, that's what it was. I didn't tear my windpipe. I just inhaled my filling. I was so relieved. I was like, well, mystery solved. Now we knew what was causing the bubble. I was right as rain after that. And so anyway, 2006 rolls around, and I was getting a little off the rails. I was on the rails, and so I didn't sleep a single weekend that year. I'd stay awake for a week at a time. I show up at my mother's house Christmas Eve. I've been awake like 8 or 9 days. I didn't think anybody'd notice. I took a shower and got the cleanest shirt off the top of the pile, and I show up and I got this professional wrestler looking handlebar mustache that went straight into sideburns, and I come walking in. I was like, Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas, everybody! Merry Christmas! And they're like, you all right? You all right? I'm good. Merry Christmas. I pulled a knife on my little 9-year-old cousin, pal. He's fine. He's on full academic scholarship over at Wake Forest, getting an MBA. I'll be able to borrow money from him one day. He's good. My brother-in-law, he loves it. Every year, I remember Michael pulled a knife. Yeah, we remember, Brian. Shut up. It's when everybody likes you. So the next night, I'm invited to my sister's house for Christmas dinners. That's what you do. And my mom and dad, my granny there, and sister, brother, and I come pulling up, and there's this church van mysteriously parked on the curb in front of their house. And I was like, oh, look at these sneaky SOBs. Everybody I know was in that house waiting to ambush me. They'd all met at the church, rode together in that church van, and they're going to have an intervention on me. I was like, not tonight. So I kept going. Nobody called. I just spent Christmas by myself. And about 2 days later, I called my mom. I was like, hey, Mom, whatever. I was like, yeah, I noticed that church van outside of Anna's house. And she said, oh, yeah, that's your sister's neighbor's the youth pastor at that church. The van's there all the time. I just never gone to visit my sister to know it was there. So I wasn't any intervention. Van's there every day of the week. Except Sunday, I guess, or whenever they use it. So I tricked myself. So here it is, February 2007, and I am off the reservation. I am not in the best mode of thinking, and I'm sitting at my house, going over my plans and designs for living, and my girlfriend at the time was there at my house. Had to be sometime in the afternoons. Her husband was still at work, and I was explaining to her all these big ideas I had, big plans of what I was going to do, and I was going to quit my job, which I hadn't really been going anyway. I worked for my mother. Anybody else would have fired me. Let me tell you, my mother, it's hard to hear a good alcoholic male story without ever living, winding up in mama's basement or on mama's couch, and ain't no drinking at mama's house. And not my mama. She's like, I'm getting a smaller house, and she'd be like, I'll just make your house payment. But she won't have me coming back to her house. She knew that. And she loved me to death. She just loved me to death. I could do no wrong in her eyes, and she knew I was, going down the wrong path, but she was in denial, a full flight of reality that couldn't see the writing on the wall, and everybody in town told them to wash their hands of me, and they never did. But they came and got me. Oh, let's see. I was telling my girlfriend all my designs for living. That's a little funny. I had this house, and I was like, well, I could turn it to a gambling and liquor joint. I never sleep, so I can manage the place 24 hours a day by myself. Nobody's going to slip nothing by me. I never shut my eyes, and I'll sell liquor by the drink, and I figure I can make money, stealing stuff and selling it, selling drugs, whatever. And then I had this garden area that I'd never used, and this old riding lawnmower that I had ran in like 5 years, and I knew with just a few turns of a wrench on that lawnmower, a little bit of grading out there, we could have souped up lawnmower racing on the weekends. We could bet on it. I'd already planned I was going to have a concession stand, sell hot dogs, everything. We'd have had a large time. Y'all had all been invited. But them plans never came to fruition. When I was drinking, I was long on talk and short on action. I had big plans and man of little action. So they they came and got me the next day, and I needed coming and getting because I won't write, and I thought I needed to pack a bag. I was going away, but they took me out to the Rockingham County Mental Health for an assessment. And they assessed that they had brought me to the right place, and they signed me up for some IOP, and I didn't want to be there, and it seemed like anybody else wanted to be there. And I'd have to go out there in the mornings and, go to classes and stuff like that, and then go see the psychiatrist with Dr. Grogan. His office was just in that old house just the other side of the parking lot here. And go over there and lie to him. He'd be like, "You been up all night?" And they'd be like, No. And he'd give me that old ducky down eye look, I know what that means when you ducky down eye look at me. Think I'm lying? Ducky down eye look at me. And you can't tell them. I don't know how many thousands of dollars my parents wasted on me lying to psychiatrists. But anyway, and I laugh and joke about it. But for 2.5 years, that was February of 2007, and I didn't find my way in here until September of 2009. And it was the worst 2.5 years of my life. They were spent mostly alone. There's nobody calling. It's just the guilt and shame that I lived with. And I knew I had these two loving parents that had done everything they could to help me and love me to death. And how had I repaid them? By being the absolute worst son I could possibly be to them. I live in a small town. I knew the gig was up. Everybody knew what I was about, what I was doing. I wasn't fooling anybody. I didn't want to go out in public. I wouldn't hardly go to work. The house was a mess, just filth, bags of garbage. Wouldn't wash my clothes, and no dates, no nothing. And I'd sit there drinking by myself, and I'd scroll through my phone, and I'd be like, how long has it been since anybody called? So nobody was calling. Nobody wanted to hang out anymore. And there were times I'd get so physically sick that I was like, Michael, there's a good chance you're going to die if you go to sleep. And I knew what I was doing was killing me. I knew I was going to die if I kept doing it, but I wouldn't go to the emergency room. I wouldn't go see a doctor because I knew if I went, he would just say, son, you got a problem. And if you keep doing what you're doing, it's going to kill you. And I knew this. I knew it, but I couldn't imagine stopping. And I knew I was just I was destined to die there alone and drunk. And I would sit there and I was like, is tonight the night I'm going to die? And how long is it going to be before somebody comes to look? Because I didn't care. And I didn't think anybody else did either. And then there was a knock on the door, Labor Day of 2009. And I can't tell you about, at this point, I'm 34 years old, and I can't tell you how proud my father is of me. Every day he has off, he has to drive across town 5 miles to wake me up so my mother doesn't have to spend half the morning calling looking for me to show up to work. And so I opened the door, and I'm like, it's Labor Day, it's a holiday. So I opened the door, and he's got this brown greasy bag, which I knew would contain a tenderloin biscuit with gravy from PG's Chicken and Biscuits. And he had a bag from Rite Aid, which I was fairly confident would contain a drug test. And I said, well, I'll take that biscuit, and I will fail that drug test. And so we sat down and had a little conversation about it. And he's like, things got to change. And I knew he meant business this time because they had talked about things changing before, but everybody had lost their sense of humor at this point, and myself included. And so I got cleaned up, and I went over to their house, a beautiful summer day. And I get there, and my mother's like, I want to talk to you outside. And I was like, well, she's never wanted to talk to me outside before. What's going on? And I'll never forget the look of just disgust, pure disgust and frustration on her face when she looked at me that morning. Because she had tried everything she knew to do. And nothing she did worked. And by this time, my sister and brother-in-law had moved back, and they'd had my little nephew, Stephen, the only grandchild. And he was about to turn 1 year old. His birthday was September 18th of 2008. So he was about to be 1. And my mother looked at me and she says, Michael, you know your father and I love you very much. And we've tried to get you help. We've taken you to see these psychiatrists. Is there anything they said that we could do? Is there anything more we could have done? Is there something we did wrong? Tell us what we have to do so Stephen doesn't end up like you. And when she said those words to me, my heart broke. My heart broke. Because if all it took to get sober was breaking Mama's heart, I'd have been sober 1,000 times over. But at that point in my life, I was just physically, spiritually, and mentally bankrupt. I had nothing. I was absolute zero. I had, as smart as I think I am, I thought I could think my way out of everything. I didn't know to turn left or right, go up or down. I had no moves, no plans, no design, nothing. And I'm just standing there in this nothingness, in this world of pain that I'd created for myself, and my phone rings. Not 5 minutes after she says those words to me, it's a guy I hadn't heard from in almost a year, and surprise, surprise, he's almost 1 year clean in the other fellowship. He said, how you doing? I said, man, I'm not doing too good. I said, are you still going to those meetings? He said, I am. I said, can I go with you? He said, we'll come get you. He and his sponsor came and picked me up the next night, and the 3 nights in a row and took me to meetings. And then I called a young lady she's the same age as me, that I knew had gone to a treatment center earlier that summer. And she calls me, get this, at 9:08 a.m. on a Sunday morning, like, oh, hey, Michael, it's so good to hear from you. I just got out of the early bird AA meeting, meets every day in Greensboro at 8 a.m. And I'm like, hold up, sister. Like, you talking about being in Greensboro at 8 a.m.? Like, who's the wacky one here? I was like, wacky. You talking about being from Reedsville to Greensboro by 8 in the morning? Like, you got to get up early. Like, anything like, you got to make some plans. Like, that ain't just happening by coincidence type stuff. No. So I got up and I went with her to the meeting. And in case they didn't notice, I snuck in. And if anybody in this room ever walked into their very first meeting alone without this, my hat is off to you. First, I came on a Tuesday night. I pulled up in this parking lot by myself, and I sat out there for a few minutes, and I drove off. I don't even know if they had a meeting on Tuesday nights at the time, because I was too scared to walk through the door by myself. And I was too scared to walk through the door then if those people hadn't took me to those meetings. And but I learned quick, and I get over the alcoholic ego recovers quickly. So halfway through the meeting, I was like, well, I'll share. And I'd noticed they said, if you got to share twice, wait till the end of the meeting. So I did. And both times I shared, I used a bunch of 4-letter words, dropped some MFers and this and that. And I think they cut me off both times. And then after the meeting, if you put some like pepper in a bowl of water and then drop a drop of Dawn in it, and then all the pepper, that's the way it was after the meeting. Everybody was, and I was looking around, I was like, everybody just kind of got away from me. And I was like, uh-oh. You done did it now. I was like, it's the first place you've been welcomed in a long time. They're going to tell you to leave and never come back. But that didn't happen. Bob F. came from the back of the room, and he came over and he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, son, we love you. And we want you to keep coming back. But you need to shut up and listen. And now Bob was right. Bob was 100% right. I just didn't have the ability. Because I'd been blessed with all this knowledge I had picked up from passing phase 1 out at the Rockingham County Mental Health. And I was like, if I'm going to be here for the next 30, 45 days, getting my parents off my back, maybe I can help these poor little pitiful people that have messed up their lives. Maybe I can be of some help. I know so much. And so I was hanging on your words, listening to what you had to say. And I heard you say, if you don't think you're an alcoholic, try some controlled drinking. I thought, oh, here's my loophole. Because, they had told me I was an alcoholic when I was 21, but by this time, in my mind, I had cured myself of my alcoholism with my current drug addiction. So I no longer suffered from alcoholism. I was just trying to get off the hard stuff. Beer never hurt anybody, right? Who's all said that? So I was like, so I'd go out and I'd have 7. I'd have 7 drinks. And that was my limit. And then I'd go home and I'd read some literature, and I'd go ahead and preload me up a couple shares for in the mornings. I just knew when I come in the morning, and what didn't matter what the topic was. I already knew what I was saying. I was like, as soon as my lips would part, the clouds would part. The sunlight of the Spirit would shine in, and just those people would float out on that pink cloud of spiritual goodness. I was laying down on them every day. Oh, they loved it, and they were hanging on every word I said, and I knew they were listening, and listening intently, because I still sit in the same chair, and it's by the door, and as the men and women of that meeting would leave, they would come by, and they would pat me on the shoulder, and they would say, son, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. And I thought to myself, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? These sweet people, they care. They're praying for me. They listen, they care. And now, I figured this out all on my own without anyone else's help, because I had not one drop of humility, so I couldn't ask somebody a question. I figured this out all on my own. Is when you were talking about you was praying for me, what you was really saying is you thought I was crazy. So I was like, don't you pray for me, I'll pray for you. If anybody's going to pray for anybody, I'm going to pray for you. I'll wake up and pray for you twice before you even think about waking up. If anybody going to do any praying for anybody, I'm going to pray for you. Don't you pray for me. You sneaky people, spite is a powerful tool. So no matter how you get here, as long as you can stay sober for a year on spite. Proof. There's proof. I was like, I'm going to stay sober because they think I can't. That's the way I was. And so I was sitting in the meetings, and I was reading the steps on the wall, and I was like, well, if I did that, I'd get this. If I, and picking which step I needed to do and what I'd get, and wasn't doing any of them. Never opened a big book, never got a sponsor. Wasn't going to pray. That was for weak, simple-minded people. And I was sitting there, and I was waiting to hear somebody say the one thing I needed to hear that was going to fix me. And what I was really waiting was for somebody to do it for me, because I'm lazy. I want everything to be handed to me. I'm a typical alcoholic. I want to complain about my problems, and I want you to fix it for me without asking you for help. on to be like, oh man, I'm behind on this and that, and then be like, and all I have to say is like, yeah, man, I need some help, with this, but I can't utter the words. I can't say thank you. I can't ask for help. I don't know what was wrong with me. I had to learn these things from you people. And then so it was the night of October 28, 2009, and I was going out for some more controlled drinking, which, like a lot of people always, if I knew it was going to be the last night I drank, I'd have done a better job. And I was down at Turk's, and we were drinking pitchers, and I might have lost count because it's hard to keep track when you're drinking pitchers. I probably had about 7 pitchers instead of 7 drinks. And a girl I knew come up, and she let me know she had something in her pocket that she knew I liked, and so we went back to my house, and we smoked it, and I come to the next morning, and I'm nude, and I had, at some point during the night, I had baptized myself in my own urine. And I looked down at me, and I looked over at her, and I looked back at me, and she's about as big as Harry as I am. And all things being equal, I assure you, she was as equally disappointed in me as I was with her. And so I looked at me, and I looked at her, and I looked back at myself. I said, look at you now, genius. Look at you now. And I was like, this is it. This is the best you can ever hope for. This is as good as it's ever going to get trying it your way. And I didn't like what I was getting. It wasn't working for me anymore. I didn't want this anymore. And I'd been coming to AA for a couple months, and like I said, I wasn't trying it. And I said, Michael, if you can't attempt to work this program, to give it a fair shake, you're giving yourself an excuse to fail the rest of your life like you have up until now. And I knew I didn't like being told what to do. And I said, Michael, you need to make a choice to choose to want to do these things. Because it seems to be working for all these other people. By this time, I'd gone to dozens of different meetings, met 2,000 people that are in AA, and I was like, Michael, I don't think all these thousands of people you've met are in cahoots to pull off the world's largest practical joke to trick you into thinking AA actually works. Like there might actually be something to it. And you had said something that made it easier for me. You said, God doesn't make too hard of those on harder terms on those who seek him. And I heard you say, why don't you just act as if, try it for 90 days, and if you don't like it, your misery is 100% refundable. So I got out of my bed that morning, I got down on my knees, and I asked to God I did not believe, and I said, God, please help me. There's a greater problem that I can solve on my own, and I haven't found it necessary to take a drink since. And I've started my day the same way ever since. I turned my first conscious thought, I turned towards that God, tell him things I'm grateful for, pray for the knowledge of his will for me, the strength to carry that, to carry it out, the opportunity, place before me the opportunity to be of service, to help someone, and pray for people who I know are going through hard times. And I hadn't found it necessary to take a drink. Now, did I think it was a miracle that first day I stayed sober? Did I think it was a miracle that first month? It was no, but after 7 months, I got arrested for something I had done when I was still, almost a year and a half prior, because the statute of limitations was about to run out. And so I had to go turn myself in at the Reedsville Police Department, but I was overcome by the most odd feeling. Now, of course, I didn't like it at first, but I experienced some acceptance. Y'all had told me God does not give you things before you can handle them. And if I'd got arrested on January 3rd of 2009, I'd have gone to prison. My parents would be like, please lock him up. We can't do anything with him. But here it is, July 2010. I demonstrated a willingness to help myself and help others. And I went with this sense of cleanliness. Because my greatest fear was always being found out for the way I was living and the things I was doing. And being honest and open. It was like I went down there and I was like, take a look. I have nothing to hide anymore. And you guys told me, you said, Michael, just do the next right thing and it'll work out. And everything worked out fine. Well, except they did say, well, this is the part you're not going to like. When I was down at the police station, I said, well, I have failed to notice the part of this that I did. And they said, well, since I had used my Tahoe for the transportation of narcotics, they impounded it. So they took my Tahoe. This part always gets me. They took the chrome 20s off and put factory wheels on it. And the sheriff deputy drove it around for like 3 years. I loved that truck. It's tough. But so anyway, I had to call several people and ask them for help. And it was, oddly enough, I was in the middle of working the 7th step and praying for humility, and I got a big dose of it. And I called these people, and most of the phone calls ended in me in tears because I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed because I could not believe the outpouring of a love and affection and the willingness to help and the lengths that people would go to help me, after I've told them what I'd done. Because that was so embarrassing. And it was at that time in my life I still felt like I didn't deserve any help, and these people, they couldn't help me enough. They loved me when I couldn't love myself. And I just got busier in this program. That first year flew by. I put over 43,000 miles on 2 cars driving back and forth from Ridgeville to Greensboro. I gave over 1,000 people rides to meetings. A lot of them with the same people. Went to over 700 meetings. And what's my life like today? I wouldn't trade it for anything. Got a wife that loves me. My parents that love and respect my family. Like when my birthday comes around, I usually have to take the day off of work because I get so many phone calls. People just constantly calling and texting, and that's not the way my life was. That's not the way things happen for me. This summer we're going to take a vacation. We're taking we have a grandson that we're going to take out to Montana and visit my wife's dad, and we're taking her mom with us. Y'all pray for me. And but I couldn't. I was telling them out in the parking lot. I was like, well, before I got into AA, I couldn't finance a trip to Greensboro. And not that the financial rewards are the 12 step says having had a spiritual awakening as the result. The result. 'Cause that's the only thing that's promised. We try to carry this message to other alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. And see, I came in and I read that wrong for a long time because I was looking for a result. I wanted a girlfriend. I wanted a car. I wanted a house. I wanted more money. I wanted everything. But the result was that spiritual awakening and that psychological change. It's been my experience. I've seen it. I changed without my permission. And I've seen, my experience has been that it's impossible. It's impossible for an individual to come into this program and work this program as honestly and thoroughly as they can under the guidance of a sponsor and not change, not have that psychological change and that spiritual awakening. And Sandy Beach would say it was these awakened people are the greatest gift the world has ever received. It's just like what I was talking about when the meeting started. I used to not ride down the road thinking of all the blessings in my life and how wonderful my life. I was just thinking about when can I get home and start doing what I want to do. And my life is so rich and so full of blessings today. I just can't say enough. I want to wrap up because it's Richie's birthday and give him some time. But the first time I spoke, it was my buddy Kip's sobriety day, July 8th, 2010. Somebody asked me to speak at the Dogwood meeting. And I was only like 8 months sober. I'd just gotten arrested a couple weeks before. And I woke up that morning and I was consumed with doubt, fear. And I was like, man, am I going to have anything to say? Am I going to be able to help anyone? Is anybody going to care what I had to say? Is anybody going to listen? And I said, Michael, you just need to do what you do every day. And I prayed. And then I sat down and I did my readings like I did every day. And I read the daily reflection that morning. And it said this. And when I read it, I knew everything would be just fine. It says, when I finally asked God to remove those things blocking me from him in the sunlight of the Spirit, I embarked on a journey more glorious than I ever imagined. I experienced the freedom from those characteristics that had me wrapped up in myself. Because of this humbling step, I feel clean. I'm especially aware of this step because I'm now to be useful to God and my fellows. I know that he has granted me strength to do his bidding, and he has prepared me for anyone and anything that comes my way today. I am truly in his hands, and I give thanks for the joy that I can be used for today. Thank you all very much. I love you all.
Hang on. Michael McCollum, ladies and gentlemen. I love it.